Next, we move on to specification number 4, which tells us to state the blood is carried away from the heart through arteries and returns to the heart through veins. So now, we'll look at the pathway blood follows as it moves through the heart, supported by the cardiac cycle we have already learned. So, let's look at this diagram showing the pathway of blood through the human heart. Deoxygenated blood from the body enters the right atrium through the superior and inferior vena cava. It then flows through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, which pumps it through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary artery and onto the lungs for oxygen. Oxygen-rich blood returns from the lungs via the pulmonary veins into the left atrium, passes through the mitral valve into the left ventricle, and is then pumped through the aortic valve into the aorta to supply the entire body. Let's go through this path of blood flow through the heart step by step. First, the deoxygenated blood, which is low in oxygen and high in carbon dioxide, returns from the body through the superior and inferior vena cava and enters the right atrium. When the right atrium contracts, the blood flows through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. Next, the right ventricle contracts, and as the pressure rises, the tricuspid valve closes to prevent blood from flowing back into the atrium. The pulmonary valve opens, allowing the blood to be pumped into the pulmonary artery, which carries it to the lungs. In the lungs, the blood receives oxygen and becomes oxygenated, ready to return to the heart. Then, once the blood is oxygenated in the lungs, it returns to the heart through the pulmonary veins and enters the left atrium. When the left atrium contracts, the blood flows through the mitral valve into the left ventricle. Next, as the left ventricle contracts, pressure rises, causing the mitral valve to close to prevent backflow into the atrium. The aortic valve then opens, and the blood is pumped into the aorta. From there, it travels throughout the body, delivering oxygen to all the tissues and organs. This movement completes the systemic circulation, which carries oxygen-rich blood from the heart to the body and brings deoxygenated blood back to the heart to start the cycle again. And finally, after the blood is pumped out of the heart muscles relax during the diastole phase. Both the atria and ventricles relax, and the semolina valves, the pulmonary and aortic valves, close to prevent any backflow of blood. As this happens, blood from the veins begins to fill the atria once again, preparing the heart to start the cycle all over. To summarize, deoxygenated blood enters the right atrium, moves into the right ventricle, and is sent to the lungs through pulmonary circulation. Oxygenated blood then returns to the left atrium, flows into the left ventricle, and is pumped out to the entire body through systemic circulation. This continuous cycle ensures that oxygen and nutrients are delivered efficiently to every part of the body. So overall, you should remember that blood flows through the heart in a specific pathway. Deoxygenated blood from the body enters through the vena cava into the right atrium, passes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, and is pumped through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary artery to the lungs. In the lungs, the blood becomes oxygenated. The oxygenated blood then returns from the lungs via the pulmonary veins into the left atrium, flows through the mitral, bicuspid, valve into the left ventricle, and is finally pumped through the aortic valve into the aorta to supply the whole body. Here, you can observe the mechanism of the cardiac cycle for yourself, and you can also hear the lub-dub sounds, which are produced by the opening and closing of the heart valves.